How's it going, guys? It's MexiGary here, and it's time for lovely stuff, episode numero 8. Alright, today I want to tell you, I'm really excited to tell you about this. I finally got a recording session with the lovely Charlotte Marshall. She's from Australia, she's a bassist, but most of all, she is probably one of the most phenomenal vocalists you'll ever hear in your life. Check it out online. You'll find her on YouTube, Charlotte Marshall and the 45s. That's the name of her originals band. She also plays with a country band in Glasgow called Tight Fit with Alex Cowan, who's also phenomenal. She's got a few wedding bands on the go. And like I say, she also does her own stuff with the 45s. And she also plays with just basically anybody. She's just one of these musicians. I've not been yet, but she even hosts like is it a samba night? At a place called Boteco in Glasgow, down in the Trongate. And I don't know what goes on there, but from the videos and the reels that I see, it looks and sounds like a bloody party that you would never expect to. It feels like you're in New Orleans, just watching the videos. You know, it's that kind of... I mean, I don't know how she's got such a massive repertoire of various music, you know. But the main thing that I know Charlotte for is her beautiful soul and blues voice, and that's why I invited her to play on a track called Our Love. Now, I've never done this on this podcast before because it's usually just me rambling shit, but I'm so excited about this song that I want to play a basic mix. I'm talking about, this is a mix that was like, I put down like a minute after she left, right? It's not really edited. There's no like mastering or proper mixing involved in this. I just want to give you an idea of what she sounds like, because it's just and crazily, I'm not a great singer. You know, I sing, but I'm not a great singer. But I think that our voices actually work quite well together. Just have a listen to this. This is a bit of the third chorus from a song called Our Love, which will be out in about a month.
Tonight, 'cause I wanna make it right.
Be met in the morning. Now's the time for joy. I love.
Tried a bunch of times.
Our love. I know you're missing me, 'cause I know I'm missing you. We say it's done forever. We both know it ain't true. Keep fueling the fire, 'cause nothing's future proof like our love. Our love.
So I hope you all enjoyed that. So that was me, MexiGary, with Charlotte Marshall. And honestly, I fucking loved the session. We had such a great laugh because we both do the same job. I wish there was more women doing the job, because there needs to be more women out there being represented in the scene, especially in Glasgow. You know, it's just guys everywhere. And not that there's, I mean, if people are talented, they're talented. If they're not, they're not. But it's just Charlotte's really flying the flag for women being able to get up there. And I've spoke to a few girls that are just like, oh, I shouldn't, girls/women, whatever, you know, or, you know, whatever. I don't want to get down that whole fucking rabbit hole, but, you know, I've spoke to a few people who genuinely feel inspired by what Charlotte does, because she's week after week at the Wolf. I don't mean to like gush, you know, but I've talked about her before a couple of times, but you know, she's just an amazing musician and a lovely person. And, you know, she gets up week after week and leads mostly a band of guys. And she directs them, you know, she picks the set list as she goes, and she organises who's getting up with who at the jams. I just think she's brilliant. And the thing is, I used to do that job, not at the Wolf, but at Box, and I know how hard it is to organise, you know, jams. It's pretty tough, you know. It's hard enough to organise your own band sometimes. But when you're not even that, it's hard enough to organise yourself. Your own life is hard enough to organise, and then you get to the point where you're organising shit for like 3 people, and then, you know, me and Charlotte are doing things, and everybody who hosts a jam knows what it's like. You're trying to arrange a situation where, okay, this guy can sing, but he can only play, but he only knows how to sing like 3 or 4 songs, and then you're trying to put him up with, you know, other guys who know those 3 or 4 songs, but you also want to get him up with the drummer who knows how to play a fucking 4 on the floor. or hold a fucking groove. And if you've got new drummers coming in, you don't know whether they can do any of that. You don't know somebody until you played with them. That's another beautiful thing about music, man. Like, I feel like I connect really quickly on a personal level with people through playing with them. I've found like people who have became my best pals over the last 10 years of being or 15 years of being on it's actually longer than that. It's probably like 18 years of being in the Glasgow scene, and just on the jam scene and the gig scene, and just like you get to jam with somebody that you might think you would never talk to in normal life, but you connect with them over a groove or some kind of riff, and you go, and they put a push in and you put the push in, or you might miss a beat, you drop a beat, or even if you make a mistake, it's quite incredible because you can look at them, you can look around at the band. Like, even if I make a mistake and I'll look around at the band to see if anybody noticed, and if I see that the bass player or the drummer has noticed, and they kind of like go, it's cool, man, I got you. You kind of hold each other up, The whole band, no matter how many people are in it, it feels like a tripod, where if one leg goes, there's others, the other two will kind of hold it up just for a second. I don't know if that makes sense, because if one leg of a tripod goes, the whole thing's fucked. So I guess it is more like it's like a four-legged table. I should have really thought through this analogy. If you got a table with four legs and one of them, gets a bit bandy for a second, it, turns into rubber, you can, the other three will hold it up. There's such a better analogy here, isn't there? I could have said anything about, anyway, fuck it. It's just one of them ones where you hold each other up, and if the drummer drops a stick, the bass player will play a little bit more groovy, just in order to get through that, like, couple of seconds till he gets back on track. But anyway, that's how I feel about playing with people, and the people that I've met through music over the years. It's when I look back and think, like, what would my life be like without music and without the people that I know through music, I just think it'd be fucking depressing, man, honestly. But I'm not saying that you have to be a musician, because to experience that, because there's probably people that feel like that through sports, or whatever you're into, like the chess club, book club, whatever people do. There was a mountain biking fraternity that I nearly got into, but when it got to the winter, I was like, right, fuck this, I'll see you in May next year. And they were like, what, you're a fair weather biker, you're not a real biker then? I was like, well, I like to dip my toe in the summertime when it's decent weather, which, by the way, if you listen to this from any country that isn't Scotland, you need to realise that we only get, summer for us is like you blink and you miss it. So you only get like, well, we've been doing all right this month, to be honest. For April to have like 4 days of blazing hot sunshine, well, for us, blazing hot, it's like 14 degrees Celsius. I know most of you deal in Fahrenheit. I don't even know what that would be. But we only get like 2 months of summer a year. But the problem with it is, it's not exactly June and July. It's 2 months of summer spread out over the year. So you might get a month of summer, you might get a week of summer in April, and then 2 weeks in May, and then you probably get the whole of fucking June will be raining again for some reason. You don't even know why. It's just and then July is usually fine, and then August goes to shit again, and then you come to September, and then for some reason you're sitting in your little sun trap in your back garden, drinking coffee and reading a book, and on the last week in September, because you're just trying to get those last rays of Scottish sunshine before it gets to October, when it starts fucking snowing. So you see, you never know what's going to happen. Like, Scotland is genuinely the only country I've ever been to where you could have 4 seasons in one day. 4 seasons of weather in one day. So what the hell? I was talking about jam nights, and now I'm talking about Scottish weather. Jesus Christ. So, next thing I wanted to tell you about was, my covers band 3 Card Trick. Last week we played, did I say that too fast there? My covers band 3 Card Trick. If you want to find out more about Three Card Trick, you would go to threecardtrickband.co.uk, and that is where all of our info is, all the new videos, details of... There's actually an online availability checker if, for some reason, you wanted to book us for an event. Weddings, birthdays, Christmas, whatever, bar mitzvahs, funerals, divorces, divorce parties. We did one divorce party, and it was for a guy whose wedding we played like 4 years earlier. Needless to say, I charged them half price for that one. Oh, it was just funny. So Three Card Trick is my covers band, and we play in Glasgow and Edinburgh quite a lot, and all over the country as a wedding band. Glasgow and Edinburgh is the pub gigs usually, and then all over the country, including north of England most of the time for some weddings. But anyway, we played last week at Stramash, but Dean wasn't there. Because he really took the 2-week holiday thing seriously. I remember last week I was telling you we're on holiday for 2 weeks, but I couldn't resist playing my solo gigs, just acoustic solo stuff. So I was actually in Monday last week. I was at a place called... Where the fuck was I on Monday? Let me just check the diary. It doesn't matter because it's in the past. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. What film was that again? That was some Disney film. Oh, sorry. Aye, so last Monday... oh, Jesus, this was 2 weeks ago. Right, Monday the 24th of March, I was at the Howling Wolf on my own, 11 till 1. They're paying really well right now for solo slots. If any of you guys are in Glasgow and you want a solo slot, get in touch with Darren at the Wolf. Paying really good for 2 hours. You got to put the work in. You got to engage with the audience. You got to play songs within the bracket of like blues and rock and roll and a bit of country. But honestly, man, it's one of my favourite gigs to do. Then the Tuesday the 25th, I was at Malone's. That was great. Just played requests all night. Malone's is in the back alley behind Wolf. I love that place. It used to be called Universal, if you remember that back in the day. And then on Wednesday the 26th, we were at Stramash in Edinburgh, and Dean... It was a band gig with me and Gibby, but Dean wasn't there because he's really taken the 2-week holiday thing seriously. So we were playing with Alex Waite of the Lockharts. And what's great about playing with Alex is, obviously he's an amazing singer if you've ever seen him, but he's got like a seriously vast repertoire, but it seems to be almost... It's a little bit different to ours. Like he sings a lot of like Sting and the Police, and he does AC/DC in the original key, which is absolutely insane to me. What else did he do? Bryan Adams. Most of the stuff that he does is in the original key, and for that to be in the original key of all these old rock songs like Sweet Child of Mine, Living on a Prayer, Summer of '69, they're all really high songs to sing for most people, but he just nails it every time. And at one time he was telling me he said, I've got 4 gigs this weekend, but I've got a sore throat. I don't know how you do it. And I was like, well, I do it the way that most normal fucking human beings do, which is take it down at least a semitone or a full tone, or use a capo and take it down further. Use a capo and play it in B instead of D or something like that. You can do it that way if you wanted to. But I know you might have questions about what I just said there, but, just ask me in the comments and I'll explain. So, playing with Alex is great. So we just took turns about. I was like, I'll do a tune, you do a tune. And he's a great bass player as well. The problem with Alex is he doesn't give himself enough credit as a bass player because he's such a great singer. There's a few other people like that, like John McEntire from The Rocks. Phenomenal singer, phenomenal guitar player. But his guitar playing gets left behind because people focus on his voice. I think there's probably a few people like that, like Richie Kotzen. Obviously he's super famous, but he is known mostly as an incredible guitar player. But if you really listen to his voice, he sounds like Chris Cornell. And in some ways, he can do things that Chris Cornell can't do, or never did do, technically speaking. Just with some kind of quick falsetto stuff that he does. There's a great live video, live show that Richie Kotzen put up on YouTube years ago, and it's one of my favourite things to watch, but I can't remember. It was the one where the album, I think it was the one after the album Cannibals came out, and I actually prefer the live versions on this YouTube video to, you know, the actual album versions, because as much as the album versions are great, it's just the energy of the three-piece just rocking him out live is just incredible. Plus his vocals are just on point across the board. People ask me like a lot, like if you could sing like anybody in the world, like living or dead, who would it be? And I was like, well, why would you want to sing like a dead guy? You're going to be mute. So, but I would always say Richie Kotzen. You know, maybe not. If it wasn't Richie, it would be Chris Cornell. I just think those two guys. Steven Tyler, talking about great vocalists, and also to boot, he's a great harmonica player and just an incredible frontman. I accidentally saw Chris Cornell live, and this is before I even loved him as much as I do now. I always loved Soundgarden and I always loved Audioslave, but not quite enough to like buy a ticket to go and see them, because I'm talking about like years ago. I'm talking like 20 years ago. That would have been about 2005, right? So what happened was, I had a mate from Perth that I went to Perth College with. This is Perth in Scotland, not Australia, although I would have much preferred that. But I had a friend from Orkney called Owen Muir, and he was a fantabulous keyboardist. Not keyboarder, as I recently learned, you know. It's keyboardist. And so we got Pally and we started playing in bands together and that, and played a duo, playing little pubs in Perth just to pay for the student loans and that, and booze. And what happened was, he, for my birthday, bought us tickets to go to see Aerosmith live in Dublin, at a big field. It was almost like Glastonbury, but it was in Dublin. It was a giant field, and it was probably the first outdoor concert I'd ever been to. No, that can't be true, because I'd been to Redmond, Leeds before. But it was certainly the first outdoor one I'd ever been for a singular band, especially in Dublin. So went there, and we had no idea, because it just said on the ticket Aerosmith plus guests. You know, so we were like, oh, well, who cares? You know, it's Aerosmith. You got to see them once in your life. So we got there, and the first band on was a local band, and God, you know, they were fine. You know, they were fine. That's it. But, you know, obviously, you'd love to have done that slot. I mean, opening for Aerosmith as a local band from Dublin, Jesus, they must have been on cloud nine. And they weren't just fine, they were great, and they fitted the kind of musical aesthetic of the night. They were kind of similar. They had that classic rock thing going on. And then the next band on, let me know if you remember these guys. They were called The Feeling. And they had that song, I love it when you call, I love it when you call, I love it when you call, but you never call at all. Remember that one? I think that was, well, it must have been obviously about. Now I'm trying to remember exactly what year this would have been, because I thought they were more like late noughties, but I remember this gig being, must have been about 2005. I'm going to have to Google that. But so The Feeling were on after. They were rocking, by the way. I thought they were just going to be like a kiddie, you know, like McFly busted type of thing. But they fucking rocked live. I haven't heard from them since, so I don't know what's going on with them. And then the band that came on after them, this is the point at which I started going, oh shit, it's getting real. So The Feeling left the stage, and they started setting up the gear for the next band. And I started to recognise the amps and the kit, and just the configuration of what was going on the stage, and then the guitars that were like sitting there. And I was like, oh shit, I recognise this, but I don't know who it is. Then the band comes out and they start the first song of the set, and I recognised the guitar player instantly. He had this beautiful black Gibson Les Paul. I think it had gold hardware on it and white binding. And the song they started with was Casino Royale. Sorry, the theme from Casino Royale, You Know My Name, so you know who I'm talking about now. And then he just comes out like a fucking oh my God, it was, you know what? It's hard to describe because, like I said, I wasn't like infatuated with the guy at the time, but I knew who he was and I knew what he'd done in the past, Soundgarden and Audioslave and that, and Temple of the Dog. But I was just like, what the fuck? This guy's like the epitome of a rock star, like a showman rock star who doesn't even need to do any showmanship. You know, he just stood there in front of this. I remember it exactly, man. He had the straight mic stand, and he was wearing like just his usual kind of wife beater kind of. I think he started off in a black shirt, and he had the short hair, which he'd had for years, obviously, because he hadn't had long hair for a while before that. And then comes on, he's just like in the middle of the stage. He didn't talk to the crowd at all, at least for the first half of the set, which was what the main bit that I remember. And he was just like, he came on to that song, and then the whole set was like the best of Chris Cornell, everything he's ever done. So it was like, You Know My Name. He played Down in the Upside. He played did you do Pretty Noose? Some of the stuff he did was from his originals albums that were just around about that time, like No Such Thing, and Arms Around Your Love. I mean, I don't care who sings that. It's a beautiful song, but I'm glad that Chris did, write it and sing it, because it gives me shivers right now just thinking about that song. Every time I hear that song, I hear a different lyric or a different sound or a different melody or guitar part. And it's just the sentiment of it. It's like Arms Around Your Love. It's about seeing a girl that you thought you didn't want anymore, but I think that's about that. But you see her for the first time with another guy, and you go, oh shit, I made a big mistake here. I think it's a beautiful song, man, And he wrote so many beautiful lyrics, Chris Cornell. But one of my favourite ones was that it's just so weird that it ended up being the title of his greatest hits album, which was Nobody Sings Like You Anymore, or No One Sings Like You Anymore. Obviously from arguably his greatest hit with Soundgarden, obviously Black Hole Sun. But the fact that he wrote that lyric, do you know what I mean? It's so weird that would be so fitting to... I'm getting emotional now, but to put on an album of greatest hits of all his music, and then to have one of his lyrics, which actually, posthumously describes himself, is pretty mind-blowing. No one sings like you anymore, and it's fucking true, but it's kind of not, because I just talked about how Richie Kotzen sounds like him, so I kind of shit on my own point there, didn't I? Yeah, anyway. Oh yeah, sorry, I meant to say that when we saw Chris Cornell, he also played, as much as he was playing like the best of like Soundgarden and his own stuff, he also did a couple of Audioslave songs. I think he did like 3 or 4. Definitely Like a Stone, I Am the Highway. Did he do Show Me How to Live? It was mostly stuff from the first record, the self-titled Audioslave record. But you know what was really surprising? He even did a cover of Bullet in the Head. Or was it Bomb Track? Yeah, it was one of those ones from the first Rage album. And I was like, what a legend. He wasn't even in that band, and yet he knows that people relate him to Rage Against the Machine. So that was such a fuck, because I've never seen Rage. They were one of my favourite bands growing up, and we nearly saw them in Edinburgh, but the gig got cancelled like a few years ago there, and it never got rescheduled. So I don't think I'm ever going to get to see Rage Against the Machine. So... And I'm obviously never going to see Audioslave now because Chris isn't with us anymore. So that, to me, is a really important memory to have, is like Chris Cornell singing Rage and the Audioslave songs, because like I say, it's the closest I'm ever going to get to the real thing. Yeah, like I said, I always get emotional thinking of Chris Cornell, because I often feel guilty that I didn't really enjoy his music growing up. I did, like I say, I did, but I wasn't like infatuated with it. I wasn't like, what the fuck is this? I need to know everything about this guy. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Sounds like Soundgarden to me was like a weird Nirvana. Whereas it was actually if you listen to all the grunge bands now, like Alice in Chains, Smashing Pumpkins, even though they don't like to be described as grunge, nobody likes to be pigeonholed as any kind of fucking style of music, do they? But you listen to all those bands, it was actually Nirvana that was the odd one out. You know, because all the other bands, the bands from the grunge era, that whole Seattle scene in the early 90s, maybe even started in 89. But yeah, all the bands from that scene, they were purposely doing something weird to kind of, they were trying to what's the word? They were trying to undermine the hair metal scene that was going on in the 80s that kind of went on for a bit too long. Not that I was there at the time to see it, but when I look back and see what was going on there, it was like, fuck me, that was a lot of hair and a lot of metal and a lot of painted guitars and a lot of shred solos and a lot of fucking 5150s and a lot of humbuckers and strats, which I'm getting really snobby about there, considering I own a Tom DeLonge signature copy, you know. But anyway, I don't use it for those reasons, so that's fine. But yeah, so these grunge bands came about in the early 90s to overthrow that kind of movement, the hair metal movement, and they succeeded, obviously. But it was because Nirvana were the ones that came out and went, and Kurt was just like, well, fuck it, I love playing loud rock guitar, but I also love the Beatles. And I love the song structures of the Beatles and pop bands and things like that, and ABBA. You know, it's kind of true that Nirvana were the most simple version of grunge, but you could also call them an accessory drug. You know, an accessory drug into grunge, which if I'd stuck with them, if I'd stuck with the grunge thing a bit longer, I probably would have gotten into Soundgarden a little bit more, but I always just felt like the chord changes, like even in Pretty Noose, which is one of their most poppy songs, it's that bit, I don't like what you got me hanging, and that chord on the From was always just a bit weird to me. But you got to remember that I was coming from I was listening to the Eagles, Oasis, you know, all the Britpop stuff. And then Nirvana was the first weird, like remotely weird band I heard. And then you listen to Soundgarden, that's miles away. That's like from here to the moon, compared to Don't Look Back in Anger and Wonderwall, or things like About a Girl, or even Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's just the same four chords all the way through, but the melody matches the chord. Whereas like Soundgarden, they were just on another fucking planet altogether, man. And it wasn't till well, I wouldn't say it was until after Chris died, because I seriously got into Soundgarden like years before he died. It was after Audioslave broke up or whatever, and I was just like, okay, well, so Audioslave isn't there anymore, which I bloody loved. It was a combination of Tom's riffs and Chris's vocals. So I got into Audioslave and I was like, right, I've got to see this guy, but he's not here anymore, so I can't see him live, but I did. So that's the closest thing. Am I going on about Chris Cornell a bit too? I don't think you can talk too much about Chris Cornell or Rage Against the Machine or Audioslave or grunge or fucking anything really. What's too much really when you're talking about something that you're passionate about? Speaking about passion, guys, I need some more of you to talk to me in the comments, or even email me. Send me direct messages, or just message in the comment section. Just any questions you've got about any gear that I'm using, any gigs that we're playing, anything I'm talking about here on the podcast, because I want to get some more interaction going on. I'm watching Paramore on the telly right now, and Hayley Williams is just, yeah, she might be the hottest woman on the planet, apart from Avril Lavigne, obviously. But what else did I wanted to talk to you about Lucky Strike. Yeah, we were playing at Lucky Strike the other night, which is a bar in Glasgow. We were playing there on Friday the 4th of April, and it was good. We did filming and recording, and what songs did we do? I was going to tell you that as well. Yeah, we did What's My Age Again, Holiday by Green Day, Dance Dance, Fall Out Boy, Thunderstruck, AC/DC, Teenagers, My Chemical Romance, In the End, Killing in the Name, and Skater Boy. Right? So, obviously we've got like our pro shot video that goes up every couple of years. Coast Entertainments, that's our agency. They fund it, they direct it, they promote it, and that's what they that's like the beer, that's like the juice, that's like the bones, and the bones of the promotion are always that. Sorry, I'm a bit confused now because the girl that's singing looks like Megan Fox, but it said that she was. Oh, it's Maggie Lindemann. The hell's going on here? I'm going to have to move that on because if she keeps singing on the screen, I'm not going to be able to talk to you. So, Lucky Strike. So we did those songs. Dean sang a few and I sang a few. But the problem was, like, it just wasn't that busy. But we weren't really filming the audience anyway. We were filming us, So there was probably like, let's just say 50 or between 50 and 70 people in the room. It was probably about, I don't know what the capacity of Lucky Strike is, maybe 200. So we did that, and then but the recordings are sounding great. So I'm looking forward to showing you what they sound like this week. By the way, if you're looking to see 3 Card Trick live in Glasgow or in Scotland, we're going to be at Stramash, Edinburgh on Wednesday from midnight. We're going to be at the Howlin' Wolf, Glasgow on Thursday from 11 till 2. Me and Gibby are going to see a band called Vukovi at SWG3 on Friday night, so that'll be funny. That'll be fun. It won't be funny, it'll be fun. We've got a wedding on Saturday, and then we'll go. So this Sunday, the 13th, I am playing a solo gig at a place called the Victoria Bar, which is adjacent to the Clutha. It's actually connected. If you go in either bar, you can walk through to the other one. Through the back bit. Oh, actually, the Clutha's in the back bit now, in the bit that used to be the outdoor smoking area. So that is the bar now. And obviously, they've got the roof over their heads for sound reasons. And obviously, to keep the rain out. So I'm going to be at the Victoria Bar, which is attached to the Clutha, on Sunday, the 13th of April. And that's going to be 5 p.m. And I'll probably be doing like 45 minutes of classic rock, all the stuff that I used to play with the band when I was in there, like Sweet Home Alabama and AC/DC, and what else did I do there? Clapton, Hendrix, but all just acoustic. So if you want to come down, it's free by the way, but the reason we're doing this is because it's a full day event, so I think the first act is on at like midday, but I managed to wangle myself a nice tasty little 5 o'clock slot. So it's because the Victoria Bar is now 150 years old. So we're celebrating 150 years of one of Glasgow's oldest bars. So yeah, I'm really fucking blown away to be a part of it. Like, I really don't know why I was asked in the first place, because, well, I mean, maybe it's because I'm one of the oldest guys who played the old version of the Clutha before the helicopter crash in, like, what was it, 2012? Oh, that was a tragedy. So a helicopter crashed on the roof. Was it a police helicopter? Some kind of, I don't know what it was, but a helicopter landed on top of the roof of the Clutha and then crashed through the roof, and like a load of people were killed. It was an absolute tragedy, man. But the pub was shut for years, obviously, and they didn't know what they were going to do, just close it down or sell it and, build flats in it. But no, I mean, I did a wee tribute gig to them at the Scotia a few months after it happened, where we just donated the proceeds of the gig to the Clutha Trust. Which is managed by a guy called Alan Crossan. Oh, this has been a fucking depressing one today, hasn't it? I'm talking about Chris Cornell dying, and talking about the fucking Clutha tragedy. But anyway, let's move on. So we're in celebration mode again. So the Victoria Bar has been there for 150 years now. So I'm playing there on Sunday, the 13th, from 5 p.m. And like I say, I'll be playing all the old school. I might even play some Ain't Got No Money by Kenny, oh, Jesus Christ. I definitely should know this one. Again, it was a guy that wasn't around for. It was a guy that I wasn't around for, but you think it's easy to do a podcast until you start having to know facts. Frankie Miller. Jesus, sorry. Obviously, his big hit was Darling, but I like the song Ain't Got No Money because they're always dedicated to other musicians in the audience. This one's called Ain't Got No Money. This one's for any other guitar players out there, you know. You ain't got no money because either you can't make any because the fucking industry's fucked, or because you spent all of it on guitars. So anyway, guys, that's me. I'm going to keep the podcast to about 30 minutes from now on. There's where to go and see us. Thanks for listening to this one. I've actually recorded this one about 3 or 4 times, but I sometimes just go on like rants that I would never, I wouldn't inflict on anyone. So you delete, you start again. You delete, you start again. But here we go. So thank you very much to Charlotte. Thank you very much to the guys at Lucky Strike for doing the video with us. It was Sam Gallagher did the audio. Shep did the video, and that's Andrew Shepherd. We got Dave on the sound, and Chris is the main booker now. So message the guys at Lucky Strike if you want to see more rock music in the town of Glasgow City. And I will see you next time on the podcast. Thanks very much for listening, and apologies for the depression. But yeah, we'll make it a bit more of an upbeat one next week. Thanks very much. Love you guys. Oh, also, don't forget to check out my new album, Rogue Biology, on Spotify. And I've got loads of other stuff. It's either under MexiGary. The new stuff's under MexiGary, but the old stuff's under my actual name, Gary Johnston. And next week, I want to talk to you about fucking P90s. P90 guitar pickups, because they're very underrated and not enough people are using them, because not enough guitar manufacturers are putting them in, because most famous people don't use P90s. Name me some famous people who are famous musicians who have made P90s famous. That'll be a good one for the questions. Right, go on. See you later. Bye. Love you.